you're going with. This Urgot, though, we saw yesterday, Shefius really covering how a little sprinkling of Urgot can go everywhere, and 2 out of Fnatic's 3 wins have been when Bwipo is playing Urgot.
Yeah, not just a sprinkling. You just want to lather that in there if you're Fnatic. Of course, we've seen Werlyb actually take the nerfed Sion as an answer into the Urgot, which may be what he wants to go for again here, but I'm still got my eyes on the Ezreal pick, which still has not been locked in. But it's not one of those crit marksmen that I think that Rekkles and Crownshot might drift more towards on this patch.
How bad does it feel locking it into the Braum? You know, we were doing some practice cards and you were talking about how you like Braum into Ezreal, and it's something you see teams doing, so now we're in the reverse situation.
It's one of those things where Ezreal into Braum isn't necessarily a bad matchup. It's just one that makes it a little bit more difficult for Ezreal to do things. Of course, Braum can throw up the unbreakable shield, and then Ezreal doesn't really have the ability to poke. Braum gets that massive hitbox and can just soak up all of the skill shots.
Okay, so let's see whether or not this gets locked in. It will be the expected for Crownshot. He has played 3 games, currently 9, 8, and 9, 1 win and 2 losses as far as the KDA, and exactly as you anticipated, the Sion as well. So we're starting to see the team comp coming together here for SK Gaming.
And there we go. It's going to be the Tristana here for Rekkles. I was wondering, he played with the Kai'Sa a little bit. He's done some Jinx in the past, but it's a tried and true classic for the Star AD carry. And honestly, when you see what SK have taken on the other side, it's a lot of scaling, it's a lot of time that Rekkles is going to be able to use here on the Tristana pick.
All right, a lot of history, a lot of success, a whole lot of games here on the European stage. And of course, that means the duo as well as the most expected top laner is now secured here for Fnatic. So they're looking for mid, they're looking for jungle, and they're starting to ban away the support pool from SK. Dreams has played, you know, Alistar, Braum, Pyke, Rakan, and Thresh. So Thresh is the only one that's still available and not yet picked.
Yeah, I'm especially looking at these jungle bans here on the side of SK, because we got the Elise taken away. Of course, yesterday, Jankos dismantled a Karthus jungle with that Elise. So fun to see those picks already being taken off the table after SK saw what it could do yesterday.
I really liked how G2 played around the Karthus jungle. They ran a Ivern kind of like shield type comp into it. They also had the top Karma, if I recall correctly. I want to see whether or not that option is considered by anybody else. I really like the theory behind it. Lissandra finds herself in the ban pool as well. So looking at mid laners, there's a fair amount kind of still available. I mean, LeBlanc is one of them that comes to mind. And when you see whether or not Nemesis or Pirean will be running one of the slightly more aggressive champions or a more reactive team-style mid laner.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because I think the Lissandra coming into this game was going to be a pretty high-priority pick. I mean, Pirean's gone for that champion 4 different times. Nemesis, that's all he's played in the last couple of games here. So with Fnatic taking it away, they want to reduce a safe option for Pirean in the mid lane, which has been his go-to safe counter pick, I believe, here for Nemesis, so they can get him a strong matchup.
Okay, so that's the mid lane cover, but what about Broxah? I mean, do we assume that he's going to lock in Lee Sin now?
Boom!
And then early game jungler is going to be secured. 1 win, 2 losses for Broxah's Lee Sin in the first half of the split. Of course, we're starting the second round robin. We touched on Dreams' champion pool. We talked about the Ivern as well. So feeling, you know, in charge of understanding these teams. But what mid laner does Pirean run? And it's going to be the Syndra last second lock. So this will make it a little more challenging for Nemesis.
Yeah, I do like the Syndra here. I think because of its range and sort of safety in lane, as well as strong gank support, it's a great option to take blind here in the current meta. Now, Nemesis has gone for the Galio a couple of times, and I think it's a really good pairing alongside an aggressive jungler like the Lee Sin, but we're going to have to wait, because with the new 9.3 patch, there's been a lot of new champions that are an option. Now, Nemesis, he's played the Kassadin before, and I criticized it yesterday in the pregame because Fnatic locked in Kassadin next to a Zac. That's way too much scaling to make work. But now it's next to a Lee Sin, which can help him get through the early levels, and he's also not going to be pressured by a Karthus jungle.
Yeah, and he's also got the Urgot up in the top lane. It's going to be a little bit more self-sufficient. There's more tools to get Nemesis to the later stages of the game. Ender, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels to me like SK's team composition comes online, becomes powerful and scary earlier than Fnatic's. So is there a bit of a timing window that SK have to punish?
Yeah, I think SK especially like that 2-item point here. The Ezreal, the Syndra, both gonna probably be at their peaks at that point in the game. And also, Sion gets so tanky so early on because of the bonus health he gets off of the W passive. So that's when SK are gonna look to force with things like the Sion ult and the Thresh hook. The best part is you have a Karthus on your team. So Syndra can burst, get him close to the threshold, then the Requiem comes down, and you got to kill.
I love it. It's the high skill cap button. Stats check, press R. Did Syndra win? No. Stat check, press R. Did Karthus win? Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's like Syndra's missing all of her Qs, but she gets the orb, so she presses R, and then Karthus missing all his Qs. It doesn't even matter, because his ult still does so much damage with the Dark Harvest.
The thing that'll be interesting is how much Fnatic play respectfully around that option. You know, traditionally when we see the Karthus in-game, it limits the amount of proactive play or the risks you're willing to take, because the Requiem is just such a game changer during the early stages.
And that's why we've seen junglers come in and face the Karthus and try to bully it pre-level 6. Now, a common misconception with this Karthus pick is that it's really bad in the early levels, or that it's mana line or anything like this, but Karthus has one of the fastest jungle clears in the game because his Q does double damage whenever it hits an ISO'd enemy, which is all the time in the jungle, and if you go try to fight him, he still does a ton of damage, so you have to pick your fight so perfectly.
Well, fortunately, Broxah on the Lee Sin will have tools to cover that. It's SK Gaming taking on Fnatic as we load onto the Rift for the beginning of the second half of the spring split. Now, Fnatic, of course, 2 wins, 6 losses. That should be 7 losses, in fact. That will be updated not too long. 3 and 6, correct?
3 and 6.
I was trying
Got the win yesterday.
I'm like, hang on. I'm trying to do the math. I know it's 9 games. But nevertheless, they picked up their win yesterday. And of course, we touched on Fnatic. If they want to make it to playoffs, they have to win, get to at least 8 or 9 to be safe. And I use air quotes, which makes this a very important game. And the same statement is true for SK Gaming.
It absolutely is. Both sitting right there neck and neck in the standings. Of course, Origin's going to be playing later on today. Early deaths are important, and I don't think either team wants to die early in this match. But yeah, we're going to be looking at specifically Broxah here to make plays in the game to see if he can limit the farming of Selfmade. A lot of times what you can do in this type of a jungle matchup is you can try to match him as the Lee Sin. And when you play the more scaling jungler, you're trying to play avoidance mode. So seeing Broxah start on the red buff, start pathing down is where we might see him get a little frisky on that bottom side of the map.
And I think it's important to note that when Selfmade did play Fnatic in week 1, and he made his big statement of what type of player he was going to be, the ability to read Broxah, to read Fnatic, to play around it multiple games with different drafts, you know, because we had that remake, it was impressive. And it has continued. SK, in all 4 games that they have won, it is Selfmade that picked up player of the game. And look at that, a level 1 all-in. And Crownshot is forced to flash already.
Now that's something I really like out of the Tristana, and something we've seen in the past when Trist has been good. Because the E gives that sort of explosion radius and sometimes can make the lane push far away from you, you don't skill it immediately. You can sort of wait to see how you want to play out the lane, and then if you land a nice CC ability like the Winter's Bite, you can look for that jump forward, and maybe even a reset if you can land the first blood.
Well, going to be very, very difficult to deal with, and if Rekkles and Hylissang continue to play this game as confidently and forward as they did at level 1, it's very exciting. I'm seeing some filled eyebrows here. Ender?
Because this is backwards. Karthus isn't supposed to be doing the invading, but it's a side effect of that Kassadin pick in the mid lane, right? You know, oh, actually, bottom lane, Rekkles going way in.
Oh, definitely very, very far forward, but it's Hylissang that comes away worse for wear. Dreams continues to chase him down. Summoner flash blown by Hilly, but Rekkles holds on to his.
Yeah, I mean, I like the attempt there from Fnatic looking for the early aggression, because even though we commonly refer to Tristana as a scaling pick, she does have really strong level 1, level 2 all-ins. Unfortunately, Hylissang just whiffed the engage right there, wasn't able to land it onto Crownshot, and then when you turn for Dreams, he's got the aftershocks. There's not much you can do in that 2 versus 2.
No, definitely not. I'm looking at consumables. Obviously, Crownshot sitting on the Klepto, so he's got a potion sitting with the biscuits as well. No sustain just yet for Dreams, but the wave is pushing in towards them. And while we're seeing Dreams and Crownshot under a lot of threat from Fnatic, the same can be said by Nemesis in the mid lane. He's down 10 CS now with probably about 8 or 9 in front of him, so there's a fair amount to farm up under the tower. This is exactly what you anticipate until either Broxah comes to help Nemesis or Nemesis gets to 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar with Akali matchups in the mid lane where it's like, oh, you fall behind early in CS, you get pressured on your tower, but eventually you hit level 6 and have a lot of kill threat. The same can be said of Kassadin, right? You know, he's going fleet footwork, arc, he has teleport, so obviously sustaining and surviving through the lane is going to be very important. And then once he's level 6, he's freed up to make solo plays and then eventually go into a side lane with the teleport.
Okay, so I don't play mid lane, and I definitely don't play Kassadin. Fleet of footwork, what do you like about it in terms of the build, and how Nemesis is going to play it in terms of the straw?
Well, I like a couple things about it. First of all, obviously, you get a lot of sustain out of it, and now that with the preseason, you're not actually locked into getting primary attack speed when you go for the precision tree. It means you can still be getting AP on the Kassadin, which you really want. You get the sustain, as we already mentioned, and also, inside of that tree, you've got presence of mind, which basically means when you get a killer assist, you refund a little bit of your ult cooldown, and you restore a whole lot of mana. Now, Kassadin's ult costs a ton of mana in the late game when he's going for multiple charges, so that's a team fight build here for Cass.
All right, so there we go. Signaling late game, signaling team fights, scaling, something that we kind of expected on 9.3, but yesterday we didn't see a whole lot of because we were very one-sided games. I kind of hope we get to 3 or 4 items and just have some crazy team fights, because these team comps are very exciting. And got a very brief glimpse there of Bwipo. He's shoving in this top lane. A very, very small CS advantage over Werlyb, as Bwipo takes a decimating smash to the face, and they're just going to keep trading for now until somebody gets sort of an item advantage. This is really just going to feel like a farm lane.
Definitely. It's sort of what you expected on past patches, but some people might have seen 9.3 and been like, wait a second, Sion got nerfed with Akali and Aatrox and Irelia and all those champs, but he was actually hit much less than those. He lost some cooldown in the early levels on his W, which is his shield, so it makes worse lanes a little bit worse in the grand scheme of things, and he also lost damage on his Q. So wave clear is down, which means Urgot's going to push him in pretty easily.
Yeah, very, very easy, especially with those shotgun knees, the AoE that he's got under his kit. The Fnatic find themselves just a couple hundred gold down. You can see CS deficits in both mid and bottom. Rekkles playing very forward. He's picked himself up the double attack speed daggers, and Crownshot already has the sheen. So it's about a 500 gold deficit, but you can see the big wave just in front.
He's getting in there.
Broxah as well.
That's a TP.
There's no flash for Crownshot. The Arcane Shift has already been used. Death Sentence comes up. Bwipo starts to chase forward. He's going to be able to pick up a kill. That's an easy first blood for Rekkles, and follow up for Bwipo.
That was a beautiful setup there from Fnatic. It reminds me of yesterday.
I have deja vu. It was a double teleport bottom lane yesterday. Bwipo even talked about it in the interview going, I think you could see what our focus was this game, guys, and it starts off exactly the same.
Yeah, this time it's even better because they only have to use the one teleport, and of course, with the Tristana there, you got that turret damage, you can access some early plating.
And it gets even better. Not only does Rekkles get first blood, Bwipo get a follow-up kill, but they get an Ocean Drake at 6.5 minutes.
That is beautiful. Early Ocean feels so good, especially in a matchup like the Kassadin when you're going to be harassed. But watch this in the bottom lane. It's so well done from Fnatic. Crownshot's flash is going to come up within the next 30 seconds, so Rekkles goes in with the W. Of course, when he gets the full charge on that E explosion, he gets another reset on the W. That means they kill Crownshot, who doesn't have the flash, and of course, Bwipo teleporting in from behind. They didn't even think it was there. Dreams thought he was safe. The answer was no. Bwipo shut him down.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful setup and really well played. Rekkles and Hilly been playing forward, been playing aggressive the entire time, and Broxah and Bwipo come in to help out. Now, it's interesting to note that they are still only even on gold. So it feels fantastic, and yes, the Ocean Drake's going to help out, but SK Gaming still sitting nice and comfy. Selfmade's got himself that Dark Harvest on Karthus, so we need to see how effectively he can use his Requiem. Hopefully better than Maxlord did yesterday. Definitely needs to have a stand-up performance, and the reason I'm going to draw my attention to him is we do talk about him a lot, but he's the pivotal player. He's the backbone of the team. And in weeks gone by, I have felt like when Selfmade gets his team ahead early, they have the tools to finish. You know, they can play with the lead. They do very well. And this isn't exactly the type of champion that traditionally does that for you.
Exactly. It's a little bit more peculiar because, as you said, not going to make the early plays, but what this champion is usually so strong at is it's about turning side lane matchups, which actually in this game doesn't really matter. It's Sion versus Urgot. No one should ever really be dying there. Or it's about being able to finish off assassinations, and that's what we're going to see with him and Pirean eventually in this game. Pirean needs to lay down the burst with the ultimate and then layer it on top with the Requiem to get the kill.
Well, lots and lots of damage with the press arc that we did joke about a little bit ago. But the threat alone is very, very high now that both of them have their ultis. They've contested, moved in to steal away the blue buff from Fnatic. There are a couple of wards going down. And for SK Gaming, I want to see how they start to play around. They've got some very good tools to kill some very squishy members. You know, Sion, Kassadin, Tristana can go down very quickly if they are caught out of position. And now that we see Bwipo pushing in this top tower, he's got himself a couple of plates. Almost takes the second. He's got the Cull and the Phage. And we're talking a little bit about Cull, Urgot, top lane earlier today. I think in the context of this game, knowing it's going to be a little slow, likely going to get to 2 or 3 items, I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about it, and usually we see this over in the LCK, where game times are going to be much slower. Actually, hold that thought, because Broxah's in, and that's a bad flash.
It was a bad flash, but here comes Broxah! Dragon Rage kick to the face! Ladies and gentlemen, Broxah finds Selfmade.
Oh, that play always feels so good when you know you really could finish him with the auto attack, but then you just knock in his teeth, and that's exactly what Broxah did right there after seeing that poor flash from Selfmade.
They're not done. I mean, Nemesis is now making his way down to the bottom. Flash is not available for Dreams, and I wondered if Fnatic fancied a dive. Nothing else, the threat alone allows a couple plays to go down.
Exactly, and Fnatic did just this same play yesterday against Splice, where they brought 4 members down close to bottom lane with a ton of vision control to set up for some plating. Now Broxah, I don't even think he knows Selfmade's here. He's like, what? Selfmade's like, what? And then Broxah jumps on forward, doesn't even have the flash, doesn't even need to use it, and gets the kill.
It's the Chuck Norris finish, the roundhouse kick to the face. Really nicely done. Broxah 1-0-2. Has 100% kill participation thus far, thanks from the gank in the bottom lane, and obviously then catching out Selfmade. But look at the vision that's now been set up. Fnatic has pushed all of those wards into the bottom lane, and that's where Rekkles and Hilly have been playing very far forward.
And now here's something I love to see from SK. You saw Fnatic in bottom lane already took a couple of plates. SK aren't going back down there. They're going topside because they know, actually, Nemesis takes a lot of damage in the mid lane, but now they're going onto Bwipo.
That was a stat check. Nemesis is already low. Bwipo's going to get channeled down as well. Requiem may just finish off the kill, and Selfmade says thank you very much for the secure.
Beautifully done there from SK. I think it's such an underused tactic. Once you've started losing bottom lane, just get out of dodge. You can actually trade up to the top side and get a lot of free plates because those plates get tankier and tankier the lower they get. So they'd already lost 2 in bottom lane. They rotate top, now can access more frequently, and they also have the element of surprise there and end up getting the kill on the Bwipo.
It's only a 700 gold advantage for Fnatic, but as SK Gaming have just picked themselves up the Rift Herald, they may be able to turn this one around. Plates are still going to be up for another 2.5 minutes, and you can see still it's a 20 CS-ish lead for Pirean in the top lane. 10 for Werlyb, 20 for Pirean, and about even for the ADC. So SK still got a lot of combat power, still got a lot of tools to work with.
Yeah, and I'd say both teams are pretty comfortable with how the game state is right now. I mean, Fnatic, they've got the gold advantage at the moment, but SK are holding on to that Rift Herald. And now, I want to see Selfmade go for a gank, but not a traditional gank, because karthus, he sort of sucks at ganking. I want to see him make a plate gank, and that's when you bring the Rift Herald into a lane, drop it down, get some plates, and walk away without really doing anything.
A plate gank. All right, you haven't like run that one by me. I wasn't prepared for it, so we need to see.
That's what it's called.
If we could see the drive-by with Shelly. But I'm really liking the movement from Fnatic. You know, they are being very proactive, but it hasn't garnered them a significant lead just yet. So for SK Gaming, they're actually going to be feeling pretty content. As long as they're not panicking and misreading the situation in game, they'll understand. Look, Luden's Echo picked up, Man Immune secured for Crownshot, Runic Echoes for Selfmade, so there's a lot of power for SK to play with. And also the initiation tools with the Sion and the options of Thresh. I think they've got a lot to play with now that teams are starting to rotate around the map.
Yep, and now this is what we're talking about. Selfmade gonna drop this in the mid lane, and dropping Herald in the mid lane has the added benefit of just making that tower so much squishier later on when you look at that tower.
Okay, Unleashed Power comes up by Nemesis. Nemesis is forced to run for his life. Requiem is not available, but is on cooldown for a little while longer. The Rift Herald is smashing away. That's 1 or 2 plates already.
Now Fnatic, they're looking to come in on the side here. Bwipo is on the flank. Pirean's looking very far forward, but Broxah gets chunked so bad.
Broxah is very low. Requiem is just a few seconds away. Keep your eyes on that cooldown. Fnatic cannot run the risk of fighting. A fantastic plate gank by SK Gaming that almost set up a team fight. And Rekkles and Hilly, they're going to look for an opportunity. Rocket jump forward. Buster shot will send Crownshot into the wall. He did not go the direction. I think Flash plus Mystic Shot, or rather Arcane Shift, gets him to safety.
Yep, that's what you got to do when the Tristana ball is coming at you. You need to get behind her, and Ezreal, of course, has the added benefit of so much mobility in his kit to allow him to do that. Now, just 15 seconds remaining before plating falls, Werlyb's going to be able to pick up 1 or 2, and Fnatic are going to try to bum rush down this turret with their Rekkles.
Yeah, tower first blood will be secured, and the bonus gold that comes with it, and that goes to Fnatic. Werlyb as well. Should be able to get a lot of damage here, but there's no support from the rest of the team, so he will be unable to at least reply. And that means the gold lead is still sitting in Fnatic's favor. Now, if Bwipo pushes forward, Selfmade can come for a gank. Flash is available to it. Disdain will interrupt the decimating smash defensive flash used by Bwipo. And that just means if he sticks around, if he goes for that play again in a few minutes, he'll get punished. And I feel like this could be one of those games that goes a little longer. We're starting to see blow for blow, both teams trading, relatively speaking, fairly evenly, with just a minor advantage to Fnatic.
Yeah, and actually one of the reasons why I think this game might go a little bit longer is because you're coming into this team with 2 very different drafts and very different styles with how they want to play this match. Actually, we're going to have to hold that thought because now Bwipo once again has 3 members in the bottom.
Can he survive long enough for the team to arrive? 150 HP. Selfmade picks up the kill, but Suicide Karthus not going to go for the fight. Here comes Broxah. Not going to go for the engage, though, as the rest of Fnatic backed away. Bwipo did play aggro. He did get punished. He did get killed.
Yeah, and he thought the rest of his team was coming over, but look at that vision in the bottom river. It's everywhere there for SK. They knew exactly how much time they had before Fnatic got there, and they were able to utilize that window to get the kill.
All right, so of course, with all the pressure down bottom and Fnatic responding, Crownshot takes the tower up top. That will even it out 1-1 very, very shortly. We've just crested 15 minutes. When these two teams met in week 1, SK Gaming had a 2,000 gold lead at 50 minutes. They picked up first tower, and they spent 25% of the game with a major gold lead. This is a very different picture. It is a very different game. It's Fnatic that got first tower, first blood, first dragon, and they are just behind on the gold lead. There we go. There's the stats from the first time these two teams met. And now we're very comfortably moving into this, movement, this rotation phase of the game where teams are looking to apply pressure in lanes, use the wave clear they have to try to get more towers down and more vision into the enemy jungle.
Exactly, and while they do that, they need to change up their lane assignments, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit because we have to see this bottom lane play one more time. Again, so much vision, seeing Broxah and Hylissang on the blue buff. They don't know the Rekkles is coming, but it doesn't matter because Bwipo is just way too far forward that a Karthus can run straight through the lane, drop down that wall, slow him down, and get an easy kill.
Yeah, the Wall of Pain is really frustrating to deal with. Very, very powerful, slow, and you can see Bwipo should not have done that. We didn't quite get the full facepalm levels of disappointment. And I think very importantly for SK, they've held on to the Requiem. So, Requiem Unleashed Power is available again. Selfmade still 2-1, still 100% of his kills thus far. And starting to work up. Got spell, double spell pen as well as Runegekko. So he's going to hit very, very hard for the ensuing team fights.
Yeah, and I think there's actually something pretty interesting happening here because it's not very often you see 17 minutes on the clock when both bottom lanes are still on the bot side of the map. And this is where I think Fnatic are dropping the ball a bit because you have a Kassadin in the mid lane with a low turret because of that the plating that went down earlier. Now SK bring multiple members. They can knock down this turret with ease.
Okay, so I feel like tell me if this is fair to say. SK have played the tower and map game better than Fnatic, but Fnatic have played the kill game and gank game a little better than SK.
I would agree with that to an extent because I think there have been a couple mistakes from Bwipo over positioning a little bit. His early teleport was fantastic, but since then has gotten caught out 2 times. Now for Fnatic, what I need to see is actually Nemesis going into a side lane because this champion thrives when he's over farming up downside, and you can bring Rekkles to the mid lane to give him a little extra protection up there and try to knock down that first tower.
Well, let's look at Rekkles in the bottom lane. He's got the rapid fire cannon and pickaxe. He's coming up against 2 items for Crownshot. In terms of the matchup between Rekkles and Crownshot, they both played those crit marksmen yesterday. Both had very good games yesterday, 7-1-5, 9-1-6. Fantastic CSDs in games that were victories. And I like the way that Rekkles and Hylissang were playing this lane. It was very, very good. They were playing to win it. and they're currently sitting in a good position once Rekkles can spend his money.
Yeah, I'm actually really worried here for Crownshot. He's smart, he's playing back, he thinks something is going on here because finally Fnatic are bringing the 4 members into the bottom lane to secure this tower, and now that Dreams is here, Crownshot's getting a little bit more excited, but Fnatic play it cool, and that's the smart play here. Just go for the tower, now they can reset. You already see Nemesis walking down into the bottom lane. It's a little bit later than I would have liked, but it did happen.
2,800 gold for Rekkles to spend. There's a big damage disparity because unspent gold does not help you in the team fights. But with the tower falling and maybe unlocking this mid lane, this could be an option for Fnatic to start moving around the map. But look, it's going to be at the cost of the bottom lane tower and another Ocean Drake. It looks like Selfmade and Dreams are on that one now. So we're getting to 20 minutes on the clock, and this game is still bang on even. 4 and 5, 3 and 6 in the standings. Both teams fighting to earn the right to join playoffs in the first ever LEC spring split here. And I'm very interested to see how both teams play these next few minutes. It feels to me like SK have got a good understanding of the Rift, a good understanding of when to be forward, when to be back, and they need to maintain that.
Exactly, and what SK need to do now is start looking towards that northern quadrant of the map, putting some deep vision in there for Fnatic, because remember, this composition is meant to find one target with a Thresh hook or a Syndra scatter the weak, and then burst them down, and they can do that from an incredible range here with all their skill shots, but to be able to execute on that, you need control over this bush right here.
Oh, Pirean did not step forward to potentially challenge more. I mean, I wondered if there was a chance. No vision control for Fnatic. Means they're at risk of getting chunked down. And as we've hit now 20 minutes, Righteous Glory's picked up for both top laners. And you have to feel that one of them is going to look for an opportunity to pull the trigger and go in.
Yeah, and I think Sion's definitely the better one for doing that. I do quickly, though, want to talk about the sweet play you can do here on the Urgot, and that's when you get an execute with your ultimate, right? And then you have the fear that comes out after you grind him up. You hold on to your Righteous Glory until you're grinding him in, and then you run him down for the fear.
Okay, we didn't get to see if the Disdain happened. Pirean's taking a lot of damage. Finds the Lantern. No further follow-up, though. That's a big chunk of damage from the Satchel Charge. Bwipo is getting jumped on by Crownshot, though, as the top lane trade happens. So, fear beyond death. Fear comes. Then you chase with Righteous Glory, and it's impossible to get away. Yeah, Werlyb's never going to lock down Nemesis. He had mana, and he has Riftwalk. Like,
yeah, it's
don't waste
really
your
hard.
time.
Yeah, and this is actually great for Fnatic because honestly, at this point, there's no one that can really challenge Kassadin in a side lane. Sion can match and clear away minion waves, but it's just going to give Nemesis the free farm he needs. Now, Hylissang, he's playing pretty far forward. The rest of Fnatic wants to find a fight.
Hylissang's playing very confident. If he puts up the Unbreakable Shield, of course, that will do so well into Syndra. The Flay from Dreams did not find a target. 5v5 in the mid lane. Bwipo's trying to scuttle crab his way forward, looking for a target. Gets a knockback. Nobody's been caught just yet. Sonic Wave finds Werlyb, and still no hard engage.
Yeah, now Fnatic are the ones trying to back up here. SK grouped up on top of each other, stacked as 5. Now Nemesis is waiting over on the side. Fnatic are not done just yet, but SK know that he's waiting over towards the sides. They're trying to lock him down.
All right, Dreams is looking to go fishing for that death sentence. Nemesis uses a Riftwalk to get a stack, get the damage proc, and maybe look for an initiation. Selfmade looks to be a target for now. Nemesis is going to Riftwalk once again over the wall. Death sentence comes very, very short. Now Fnatic looking for a re-engage. That's a stun to Broxah, one of the main tools.
Yeah, Bwipo caught up for it. He gets out. He buffers the CC there with the dash, and Fnatic once again play with fire and get out just barely.
The box goes down and finds nothing. Dreams will not have the AoE CC. Nemesis is still sitting on mana as SK Gaming continue to siege. They continue to put pressure in the mid lane. That's a stun into Rekkles as well as Hilly. There's no further follow-up. The tower will fall in just a couple more hits. Fnatic are being pushed around the map by SK Gaming.
Oh my word, that was such an incredible moment right there between Fnatic and SK because both teams wanted to contest, but they weren't willing to budge at all. SK only were able to break through for that turret because Fnatic, trying to find a flank, were scattered away, and that left their turret exposed.
You can cut the tension with a knife this game. Both Fnatic and SK are waiting for an opportunity. They're looking for an unforced error. They're trying to create that, looking to force errors on the enemy team, and that would have been the go button. Werlyb, he held his nerve. There were so many times I thought he was going to ulti in, and he chose not to.
And I've got an unforced error for you right here, and that's going to be the big juicy Infernal Drake spawning in just 1 minute here, because a lot of pro players, you know, they happen to like damage, Trevor, and both of them are going to be setting their eyes on this dragon coming up in just a moment. For SK specifically, it's about using this bush. Right now, there's a Fnatic ward in that bush, but if you can control that area, you control basically all the entrances close to mid lane into the river, which will shut down Fnatic's ability to put down vision or even contest the objective at all.
Okay, so SK Vision allows them to initiate safer. Do you feel like their 5v5 is slightly stronger than Fnatic's?
I do at this moment. Right now, Kassadin still only has the fully stacked Rod of Ages. He doesn't have the Archangels just yet. Even then, it's hard for him. Once he hits level 16, that is when Kassadin just like smashes his Archie. There's like no way you can actually lock him down. And with the limited CC, I think, on SK's side, he's going to have a field day once he gets to that point.
And I guess for Fnatic, they want to play the team fights a little bit differently. SK will be very content with a straight up, heads up, front to back style 5v5. Use that AoE. Use the ability to get in, but with Lee Sin and Kassadin and Tristana, Fnatic maybe want to have a more spread out open space fight. SK, they've got vision control, they've got dragon control, this will be uncontested.
And this is, I love this kind of League of Legends because both teams are getting exactly what they want. SK, they wanted the Infernal Drake. Fnatic said, we're not going to walk into the Fog of War, we're going to control now top side of the map. We're going to put vision into this river because they know the real prize isn't the Infernal Drake, that's a bait. The real prize is this Baron, and as long as they can deny SK for getting that for the next few minutes, then they're going to be in a very comfortable position where they can start to fight. And now that Rekkles has those 3 beautiful items that every AD carry player in the world loves, he's going to be happy looking for an engagement.
Now that Fnatic have hit 3 items, at least on Rekkles, getting close to it on Nemesis, working towards Bwipo and Broxah as well, does that window of opportunity, that power advantage for SK's 2-item comp start to dwindle?
I don't think so, because you have the power of the Karthus. Now, Karthus scales better than any other jungler in the game in terms of damage. He doesn't have a ton in the CC department. He has the wall that also reduces enemy magic resistance, so it makes picking off targets with Syndra easier, but his damage is next to none, and that's going to make up for some of the weakness that an Ezreal might find in a team fight.
Yeah, but also you can't understate. Oh, Crownshot takes a couple shots. Remember, 3-item Rekkles on Tristana. He's looking for the insta-kill with the combo. But the unspoken power of the threat, you have to be very calculated with your engages. If you make a mistake on Fnatic's side, the Requiem punish is going to be very, very high. Look, we're 25 minutes in. It is 1,500 gold in the lead for Fnatic. And they are starting to play around Baron. Just taking a quick look at everybody who voted on who was going to win this game today. Twitter, everybody in the audience, the averages, including most of the casters, all voted for Fnatic to win this game. Only VODS and that StatsBot believed SK was going to do it. And at this stage in the game, it is still looking as close as it can be to 50-50.
Yeah, it really is, because right now, even though Fnatic have the gold lead, that doesn't tell you the whole story of the games. SK are the ones with control over the Baron, which is all that matters at this point in the game. We're at 26 minutes right now, but SK, they're grouped up. They don't have a teleport, so they're letting Nemesis split push, and they're starting the Baron.
Of course, they're trying to get this teleport out of Nemesis, trying to force his hand.
Oh,
Pirean, and the death sentence comes down! Hylissang is blown up! It's a 5v4, and Rekkles has been stat checked.
No.
The Rekkles begins to jumble! Good night, Rekkles! Goodbye, Bwipo! And SK Gaming have played the objective and the rift perfectly.
They set it up so wonderfully right there, but Broxah is still alive. Fnatic need him to be the hero, but he gets hooked. He's going to get bursted down.
He's going to get bursted down for now. There's no follow-up damage just yet. The Baron is the focus as Dreams has been able to force him out. 1,500 HP Broxah. He's too late to the party, and he's going to get gifting another kill. SK Gaming in control.
So well done right there. SK around the Baron. We said they needed to have vision control, they needed to find a pick, and they needed to burst someone out. Well, what did they do? They locked their targets onto Hylissang, who was trying to put a ward in the pit. Actually, Fnatic, they had a ward outside, so the fact that they're moving up this far is a huge mistake. And then you see Rekkles come over the wall. He's strong, but he's not that strong. He gets chunked out by the ultimate power, unleashed power there from Syndra, and then knocked down with the Requiem.
So nicely done. This replay brought to you by Alienware, and this allows SK Gaming to get the first Baron of the game. They got the Infernal uncontested. They are now in control of the gold lead. And for Fnatic, you can see the damage dealt in that last fight. Pirean dealt almost all of that to just Rekkles and him.
Yeah, He just pressed that R button, you know. He landed some Qs onto Hylissang, but Rekkles, I don't think he took one Q to the face. It was just one big R button followed by an even bigger one on top.
And this is also why we keep saying how close this game is. Yes, Fnatic have made some good plays, and yes, Fnatic have been, maybe you could argue, a little more proactive, but because of the composition and because of how well SK have moved around the Rift, they are playing very well. With Baron and Powered Siege, they're pushing bottom. There's an initiation in middle though, but SK have grouped up. All 5 members are nearby. We're both going to need to step through the gate. There's Hilly. He needs to go. Oh, Broxah is just deleted before he can do anything. Doesn't even get to channel the ultimate. Now Nemesis is waiting in the wings. He's watching the show unfold, and there isn't enough of a front line. Bwipo gets caught out by the death sentence. Goes golden thanks to the stopwatch. Here comes Nemesis. Cannot find himself a kill. It's the squishy members he's hunting for, but they've got so many hit points. Rekkles and Nemesis need to do something.
If Rekkles can defend, he has to start hitting champions. He's been on wave clear duty right now as he sees member after member of his team die in front of him. Now with the teleport coming back in from Werlyb, SK might just try to end the game.
They are looking for the finish. The Essence Flux onto the Nexus turret. Baron Empowered Siege minion, or Cannon minion rather, is trying to do some work. Look at the death timers. Broxah is now alive. Nemesis waiting in the wings. 20 seconds for Bwipo.
And Fnatic, all they've wanted all game is to look for a flank and a kick to knock a carry back into the rest of the team. But every time they try to do it, they don't have the rest of the team right there ready to find that play. And now that their base has been broken, the opportunity seems to have passed.
Fantastic sequence of play from SK Gaming. They allowed the split push, allowed is a strong word, they reacted to the split push with the Baron play, secured the objective, secured an inhib, and now are up 3,000 gold, and they're not done yet. Still 40 seconds left on Baron. They're going to be pushing this top inner turret. And yes, Fnatic still have a lot of comeback mechanics. It's a Kassadin and a Tristana at 30 minutes and nearly 4 items. But they cannot afford any more mistakes.
Yeah, and the issue for Fnatic is that in a true front-to-back team fight, I don't think they can win at this point in the game. They really do need Nemesis and Broxah to come in on a flank, but that leaves Rekkles exposed. Now he can free hit, and it's good for Fnatic.
Okay, Rekkles gonna get a full channel. This should kill Bwipo. Not just yet, the shield was enough, but with Werlyb diving in, they're going to set up what? Now Nemesis got himself a kill. He's going golden with the hourglass. Rekkles is so low, he can't chase, he can't fight, he can't do a thing. Fnatic are wrecked. They've lost 3 members, and their base is being destroyed.
SK looked dominant throughout this game. They kept it close, but both teams seemed to have everything go their way. But it was the crucial moment at the Baron. SK won, and after that, they have not lost a fight. Here goes Broxah.
They have not. Broxah, yes, he's found Pirean, but Rekkles can't find the kill. The satchel charge will pop and will not be enough to take down SK's mid laner. Nexus turrets are now the focus. 20 seconds on the death timers. Rekkles is doing what he can, but Werlyb is so beefy. He's a huge meat shield for SK Gaming. The Nexus turrets are falling, and Fnatic are on the verge of losing their base. Here comes Hilly. The Nexus is being focused down. Rekkles jumps in. He finds Pirean. The Nexus is being focused. The game's not over yet. And Fnatic, they've defended it. The minions are in there. We need to see the game.
They're still
the Nexus
Sion.
is finally down. And SK Gaming have won.
Oh my word! Fnatic trying to hold on there at the end. Rekkles got kill after kill after kill, but it was not enough. Broken Shark came in this week, and SK have looked so good.
I can see the looks of the faces of people here in Berlin, and they are shocked. SK Gaming have had tremendous growth in the last couple games, and you have to give credit to Crownshot, one of the most criticized players in Spring Split. His games yesterday and today have been a marked improvement.
They definitely have, and Trevor, SK, it seemed so different from them as well, because we're used to seeing Selfmade make early plays. That wasn't the case here. They sort of went neck and neck with Fnatic throughout the entire game and played all of these engagements, these map movements so well. They knew where they needed the vision, where they were going to look for the pick, and once they found it, it was lights out for Fnatic.
SK Gaming are one step closer to a playoffs berth. They are now 5 wins and 5 losses, and they just took down Vitality and Fnatic. The reason this win is so important, in the event that teams are tied in the standings at the end of Spring Split, head-to-head records are crucial in determining whether or not tiebreakers are won by your team or not. A 2-0 over Fnatic, who was close in the standings, now is not. Fnatic got 3 wins, 7 losses.
And especially when SK have a 3-over for Fnatic, it looks even better. I mean, they have just taken it to Fnatic, in all honesty here. And I think that when you look at the playoff race coming into the split, people thought SK probably middle to bottom of the pack team, right? But now they are making a legitimate case for themselves to try and make it into the playoffs and go for a run.
And take a look at the end game stats here. 31 minutes of game time. The gold lead up until, let's call it 25 minutes, was not bigger than 1,900 gold. That was the biggest advantage that Fnatic had up until the Baron, when all of a sudden SK made a reactive play to Nemesis split pushing bottom. They played Baron flawlessly. They set up vision correctly. I mean, I'm really, really impressed with the decision-making that they made.
Yeah, I mean, I was as well, too, because even though SK were down in gold, and we touched on this a bit earlier, they always had control over the map. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, you know, the Kassadin wanted to be into a side lane so SK could bring more members to contest for vision, but they did it, and they made all the correct calls. They didn't send people to answer him. They went for the fight around the Baron, and they won it.
And I also like the fact that when we look at the Fnatic gameplay with maybe an oversight of a few calls here and there, they also played well. They played aggressive. They had good kills and ganks opportunities, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to pick up the win. We've got a couple of suggestions for you LEC fans out there. Who is your key player of the game? Selfmade, Pirean, or Crownshot? I'm probably leaning towards Crownshot. Head over to @LOLesports and vote. I think his Ezreal was very, very good, and I'm still impressed with his Jinx from yesterday. It's nice to see a man or player who's been criticized stepping up.
Yeah, I think Crownshot played very well. Also Pirean, too. Yeah. If you remember the most important play, it was when he picked off the Braum in the jungle, and then he just nuked Rekkles, and that was when the game looked really rough.
Well, that was the Baron that let them win the game. Law is standing by with SK's AD carry.
Thank you very much, QuickShot, and thank you for joining me after your victory 2-0 this week. Was it scary for you to play against Rekkles' Tristana?
Well, we knew it's like ultra comfort for him, but we had a plan prepared to play against it, and I think it worked out.
Your coach mentioned before the game that you had a plan coming into this game. Can you tell me more about it now that the game is over, concerning the draft?
We knew that Fnatic likes to play for late game, so we just wanted to pick strong mid-game spikes like Ezreal, Syndra, stuff like this, and just look to force, and I think we executed well.
Nice bait here. I mean, they TP'd early on the bot lane, you guys died. How did you feel about this afterwards?
I mean, of course, it was unfortunate because we should have seen it coming and played better, but it was not that bad in like the whole overall game because we still had opportunities to come back later.
Yeah, it's a win after all. As I mentioned, you guys are 2-0 this week, closer and closer to playoffs now. How do you feel about the end of the split and the second round robin coming? You confident about it?
Yeah, I think we finally started to show we started to translate our screen performance to stage. So I'm confident for the second half for sure.
And I hope you guys keep this confidence. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
For more on this game, let's send it back to the studio.
Thank you very much, Lore. SK looking damn good in that game. I'm impressed. You heard from Crownshot, so many members stepping up. I think it's important that we just appreciate how big this is for taking down Fnatic twice. You can make the joke at this point 3 times as well, but really good from this team.
I mean, we heard it from Broxah in the ready check. Confidence seems to be the thing for them. Like Crownshot, he seems to be playing way more confidently. Matt, I love Pirean in this game. I know people, like when we looked at player of the game, me and Frost were like, you have to talk about Pirean. This guy had so much control in the mid lane. He was applying so much pressure. And like, we wanted to talk a lot about this draft, Frost, because when we looked at it for the first half, we were like, okay, I'm pretty content with what Fnatic have got for themselves. They got themselves an Urgot winning topside match. They're actually challenging SK, saying, we don't think you can play Jace. We don't think it's in your repertoire, so we're fine picking the Urgot and not worrying about it. And then they got themselves a very solid bot lane with the Braum and the Tristana going up against an Ezreal, knowing that they would outscale, especially at like 3 items as well. So Fnatic are looking really good. It was the second half that we had a lot of problems with.
Yeah, the biggest issue that I had, as soon as that Lissandra ban came in, I was like, why? Why not just ban Thresh there? You already put so much into banning away support champions and then priority picking a Braum very early on into your draft that by taking away the Thresh, you basically eliminate that pool and then you can pick the Lissandra coming out of it. Maybe they thought that the Karthus could have been a flex pick for Pirean, but you know, I just think you grab that Lissandra. As soon as I see Kassadin, I'm like, oh no. Please, please, no more Kassadin.
I'm gonna be honest. I saw this. I saw the little Urgot action coming in from my friend Sheffield.
Would you like some more of those? Because we just give them to free.
Hundreds. And I thought for sure. I thought this is insane. Fnatic are getting everything that they want, and it really did fall apart. But there were a few brief moments where it really looked like Fnatic were in control of the game, and it was rinsing and repeating plays that we saw work yesterday, ganking the bot lane, showing us that they can, when it comes down to it, just play around this bot lane to find these leads.
And Vedis, the thing that you pointed out is the whole reason this works for them is because Bwipo had the TP advantage. You know, Werlyb doesn't have access to the summoner spell right now, so he just gets the free trip down there to make this the Rekkles show.
But also, it was just, this showed me two things. Number one, they were fine with the Thresh pick coming through because they thought if this side gets pushed, the moment we land a single Braum Q, we can shut them down. And they showed that by getting his flash at level 1, and then they'd already set up the TP play by getting that ward in the tri-bush. But the second thing that it showed me is that Fnatic are determined to play around the bot side of the map. And it feels like that even though we saw like a resurgence of Fnatic, to me already I'm starting to think, is this the only play style that Fnatic have? Because 2 days in a row now, it's just been gank bot, gank bot, gank bot, to the point at which we're seeing teleports extremely early in the game.
And the thing is while we're talking a lot about like Fnatic's draft and Fnatic's plans, just looking at the other side, the fact that SK won this so convincingly. I know it seemed pretty close, neck and neck. It really came down to that big Baron fight, but it was the fact that they won it off of their execution of their macro game and the execution of team fights. Because Selfmade wasn't able to impact the lanes as heavily as he would have since he was on a Karthus jungle. You have a guy like Werlyb, who is known as playing tank players, but he's playing a weakened Sion. You know, he didn't take the Jason to the Urgot. Urgot, we would heavily say, you know, the better champion in this draft.
The only unnerfed top-tier champion that felt like on 9-3, surprising.
And Crownshot finally showing his scrim Ezreal performance on stage when his previous Ezreal performance has been not that inspiring. So again, it just kind of speaks to everything that went into this SK win, because looking at their draft, I heavily favored Fnatic up until that Kassadin point.
That's what I want to talk about quickly, is because we saw the Kassadin get through the laning phase okay. Yes, there was a CS discrepancy, but it felt like Nemesis was fine. He wasn't going down. We come into the mid game, he's farming up in the side lanes, and I'm like, oh boy, it's Tristana and Kassadin late game. There's no way they come back. But Vedis, it never felt like it transitioned to anything. The Kassadin just felt irrelevant.
The thing is, the longer this game went on, I felt like the better it was only going to get for Fnatic, right? And I'm glad that we brought the replay up now, because what you'll notice on the minimap is that you have Kassadin sitting down in the bot lane, and this is kind of the ideal situation for Fnatic, where SK is kind of struggling to know what the decision to make is. So SK, knowing this, say, you know what? We need you to come to us. We're quite strong at this point in the game. And note where Pirean is, just outside the red buff. He's sitting on a control ward, and they use Dreams as bait, showing that he's kind of walking in and out, and Fnatic think that he's the only one in the brush. So if we start the replay, Fnatic has no idea that Pirean is sitting here lying in wait, sets up the initial pick. Rekkles then dives in, gets burst out, and is out of the fight immediately. So now all the damage that Fnatic have, all the gold that they've invested is gone, and Nemesis TP's at the end of the fight, and there's nothing they can do. And the reason why I love this from SK is because it ties back in with the confidence point that we made earlier. They had to force a play around Baron. They were gonna get outscaled. They were gonna lose if they kept trying to play to Fnatic's map. They had to force a fight, and they did it so perfectly.
And it's the execution on that, because we also had this conversation about the lane assignments. You know, you talked about that idle stance of having the Kassadin over into a side lane. Constantly, SK were actually misusing their lane assignments because they weren't able to find a good matchup for that Kassadin. And I can't believe Fnatic, it almost felt that they were overly confident in their team fighting, which, to be fair, so was I. I predicted Fnatic for this, and I thought, comes down to a 5v5 team fight, surely Fnatic have the veteran status to win it, but they didn't. That was so terribly executed on so many different levels. Bwipo was out of position. They lost track of where Pirean was. It was a late teleport in. Broxah, I think he used the blast cone and then didn't have access into the Baron pit after he got zoned out. Just a mess across the board.
And of course, our key player of the game was Selfmade, 50% of the votes overall, so definitely beating out both of his teammates there. And the thing I want to highlight Selfmade for in this game is that this is...
Wait a minute.
How did he get it?
Wait a minute.
Okay, just to be absolutely clear here, Yanko's got a lot of these for pushing on Karthus. Selfmade deserves at least one.
No.
Also, shout out to the SK fans. They say this boy is staying at the top of the leaderboard.
The great thing about this SK game was how Selfmade wasn't the carry of this game. And that was what was so awesome about SK playing today.
Pirean 30%, Crownshot 20%. So the vote pretty split. You know, people. I think the issue was is they couldn't decide on the second one.
Fans at home, I'm disappointed in you.
Do you not have eyes?
This thing, and Frost goes, well, Well, the thing that I want to point out is this is really good for SK, because for the first time ever, I go, SK won a game where Crownshot didn't hard stomp someone in the early game.
Yeah.
That is huge growth. That is massive growth for this team.
I mean, and it's nice because after the first 3 weeks, what we were saying about SK was they're kind of stagnating. They're not getting any better. They're not showing any development. And, you know, they did bring in Broken Shard and they needed to make some changes internally. And it feels like that right now, those changes are benefiting. And the team seems to be more confident, seems to be playing stronger. And moving into the second half of the split, they look like one of those teams contending for those middle pack spots.
And reality is we may have actually just seen Fnatic blow playoff chances right now and not even realized it yet. They have to get to that magical number of 9, and now they lose the head-to-head record, and chances are that SK could be the gatekeepers just into playoffs themselves. Like, this is such an uphill climb for Fnatic. It's devastating to make this type of loss today.
And it's actually insane how quickly these stories change, because 2 weeks ago when SK were like, they started good, and then we're like, oh, this team is stalled out, they're not getting better, they're stuck. Now Fnatic is a team we expect to rise, but immediately after this week, things are completely different, where Fnatic, we had hope for a moment, but now it looks like SK are a real playoff contender, that those week 1 predictions when they beat Fnatic the first time were spot on, and the continued growth just remains to be so impressive. Well, after the break, we're going to hear from Excel Esports coach Ferndog as he and his team look for a much-needed win against Splice. Before we go, let's take a look at the new